As you're joining everyone, if you can mute yourself and put yourself on maybe a hide video mode, I think that would be better for now, so that we can kind of get through our portion. And then when it's time to go ahead and share some questions that you might have toward the end, we can have you come off of mute one by one. But for now, if everyone can mute, just to eliminate distraction, that would be great. We are recording this session for those that couldn't join us live, but this session is really for all of you that are here live with us. So welcome. Good morning, good early morning to those of you joining us from out on the West Coast. My name is Emily Whitehouse, and I am Associate Director of Admissions here at the Yale School of Management's MBA for Executives program. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm joined by Todd, who is our Senior Lecturer in Sustainability, Faculty Director of the Sustainability Program, the area of focus for the MBA for Executives program, and the Faculty Co-Director of the Yale Center for Business and the Environment. I'm sure I've left the title out, Todd, but I will let you move into a quick introduction, but momentarily, just quick housekeeping, everyone, cameras off, mics off for now, and what we will have together today is a little time for Todd to share an overview of the sustainability area focused curriculum, the types of courses that are covered, maybe who would be interested in something like this. And then we will launch into our panel with a couple of alumni of the program and a current second year student. So with that, I will go ahead and check the chat and questions that come in. But with that, Todd, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us. And I kick it to you.
Thanks, Emily. And welcome everybody. For those of you, if there is anyone who woke up on the West Coast, I'm also from the West Coast, but that was over 10 years ago because I've been here at Yale University for a decade now, which is incredible to me. As Emily mentioned, I am the faculty director for the sustainability program for the MBA for Executives. We have in the past at the Yale Executive MBA, we've had 3 tracks that students would move into or declare when they first started. So one is sustainability. We also have healthcare and asset management. Of course, this coming entering class, you don't have to declare one of those 3, and you don't have to declare it when you first apply. You can come in and explore a little bit and learn more about the programs when you're here. But I want to tell you a little bit, maybe a lot, about the sustainability program. But I think more importantly, I want to introduce you to some of our students and alumni that are going through or have gone through the program. And I'll let them introduce themselves, but we have first up is Urvashi Bhatnagar. Urvi, do you want to just introduce yourself and say a couple words?
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Urvashi. I go by Urvi. Great to meet everyone. A little bit about me. I was a clinical provider in the past, and by way of my MBA and interaction with the lovely people at Yale, ended up transitioning my career to population health and transactions with a very big sustainability focus. I've also authored a book in collaboration with Paul Anastas, who's also at Yale. And working on many projects with Todd and several others. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for being here, Urvi. It's wonderful to have you back. It's been a while since you've been here on campus officially, but we get to see her every now and then as an alumni. Second up is John Roseman, another alumni. John, would you mind doing a quick introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Todd. My name is John Roseman, and I actually reside mostly in the Fiji Islands, though I'm in San Diego right now. I graduated last May, and currently I'm in the tourism industry in Fiji and a managing director for Tavarua and Namoto Island Resorts, as well as some related subsidiary companies. I'm also currently in the CBAY financing and deploying clean energy program, as you know, clean energy, solar, et cetera, is super pertinent to my work in Fiji right now. So I miss my time at SOM, but I'm definitely doing something productive with everything I learned from there. Thank you, Todd.
I did not know you were in the FGCE program. And for those of you, I've heard it's fantastic. For those of you who missed that acronym, CBAY is the Center for Business Environment at Yale, which I also co-direct. And last but not least, we have one of our current students, Erica Goldstein. Erica, do you mind doing a quick introduction as well?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Happy to be here. I'm Erica Goldstein. I work for Otis Elevator Company. I'm currently the executive director of the Global Modernization Program, which are basically taking old elevators and making them new, so a bit of refurbishing. I am in the class of 2024, so I am heavily ingrained in a lot of the activities that Todd is going to talk about. And maybe something interesting about me is my husband and I enjoy renovation programs, and we do a lot of work around our house and our yard. And I guess we call ourselves the Chip and Joanna Gaines of our little neighborhood, which is in Easton, Connecticut. Happy to be here today, and thanks, Todd.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you to all three of you for joining us. What I thought, or how we want to structure this is I'll take maybe 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. I'll tell you a little bit about the program, how we structure it, the type of activities that we get up to, how I have conceived of this curriculum. And then we'll go back to our panel. I'll ask them a few questions, but hopefully you'll have some questions for them as well. So at a very top level, these kind of three questions that Emily teed up. The first is, why did we do a sustainability focus at all? So the core of the reason that we have a sustainability focus is really not hidden exactly, but it sits in our tagline as a business school, which is that we train leaders for business and society. And the sustainability focus area is really trying to highlight that ampersand, that there is a need for business leaders to understand the risks and opportunities that society and the environment create for business and the impacts that business has on the society and the environment. For those of you who are deeply steeped in sustainability already, you'll recognize that language as double materiality, where we're looking at both how society and the environment impact on business and how business impacts on society and the environment. And then beyond that, we want to understand through the curriculum, how do we manage, navigate, and hopefully maximize the value across both sides of that ampersand? How do we create profitable businesses while at the same time protecting and preserving society and the environment? And sometimes that balance can be very, very difficult to achieve in business. So a lot of what we do in the sustainability curriculum is looking for ways to balance across those two aspects. The other reason we have a sustainability focus area is because over the last 30 years, roughly, sustainability or ESG or corporate citizenship or corporate responsibility or corporate social environmental responsibility, whatever you like to call it, has become increasingly material and important to businesses around the world. So not only do we see risks like from climate change or risks from growing socioeconomic inequality and economic displacement, but we also see opportunities like new energy or alternate materials or food deserts even. There's all kinds of opportunities that sustainability is creating for businesses if they align themselves into this space. So it has become a fundamental way that businesses have to run today. And we thought it would be remiss for a business school to not think about that very, very clearly when we create curriculum for our students. So that's why we have the sustainability focus. A bit of history. I have been the faculty director for this focus area for about 7 years now. And before that, funny enough, Irvi mentioned Paul Anastas. He is, some people call him the father of green chemistry. He's a professor here in the School of the Environment and the School of Public Health. Paul used to run this program, and I really tried to build on what Paul created in those first couple of years. So I'll talk about the curriculum in just a moment, but I want to answer the second question of who might be drawn to this curriculum. And rather than guessing, what I'll tell you is over the last 7 years, I've seen roughly 3 kinds of students that really dig into this curriculum. The first I'll call in-house sustainability people. So these people are working within corporations, they're working within large companies, and they are either taking an exclusive role or a role that exclusively looks at sustainability, usually a strategic role, or they are working in some other aspect of the business, but they are layering on sustainability as part of their job. So for example, if you're a supply chain or procurement director, laying on sustainability risks as part of your job to better understand and make your supply chain more efficient. That's kind of category one. People who are in-house, want to make change within their large organizations. Category two are finance people. So we always have, it's roughly a third between these three categories. So we always have finance people that are looking at specifically sustainability finance and how to integrate environmental and social risks into the way they create their portfolios or draft their investment strategies. So that could be fixed income instruments. It could be portfolio management from a traditional asset manager. Across the board, we have finance folks that are interested in this topic area. And then the third bucket, which is a little bit of a catch-all, are the service industry folks. And that includes consulting, legal counsel, but it also includes entrepreneurs and people who are going to hang their own shingle and do their own thing, trying to integrate sustainability and business into a successful mix. So the result is we've got a huge variety of people that come into the sustainability classroom. Again, I'll get to the curriculum in a moment, but one of the key things that we need to do when teaching business and sustainability is we need to level set across all those different backgrounds and all those different passions and interests that people want to go to after they're done with an MBA. So the last question that Emily teed up for me here is, how do students engage with the sustainability theme inside and outside of the classroom? All three of our panelists will be familiar with this little diagram that I picture every year. If you think of concentric spheres, at the core, in the center sphere, in the middle of this diagram, are what I think of as core sustainability issues. These are issues that have a clear financial impact on companies. It's clear how the financial impact occurs. It's clear how we would mitigate that risk, how we integrate it into the business. There's no question that we have to deal with this. Think of issues like health and safety, fatalities, climate change today, workers' rights, employee well-being, etc. Then the next concentric sphere is what I think of as consolidating issues. These are sustainability or ESG issues that we think they're probably financially material. We can see the writing on the wall, but it's unclear how it internalizes to the company. It's unclear how much of an impact we're talking about. And it's really unclear how we're going to manage these issues, usually because they're spread out across lots of businesses in the economy. And then the last concentric sphere is emerging issues. These are issues that we see on the horizon. We think there's risk and opportunity associated with them, but we have to take a bit of a risk ourselves if we're going to go after those risks and opportunities. So if you think of those concentric spheres, that is how I think of our curriculum. At the core, those are issues that are going to be taught and thought about on a regular basis within the classroom. So we have our core first year MBA classes where you'll see case studies that touch on those type of core sustainability issues, but mostly you'll see it in the second year curriculum, which is we have 6 sustainability classes, which I'll talk about briefly. Then if you think about emerging issues, we definitely tackle those in the second year curriculum. And we also want to look at it in terms of who is doing what in the space of emerging sustainability risk and opportunity. And we'll bring in speakers through our colloquium series that are actively working on emerging topics within sustainability. And then finally, if you think of that was consolidating. If you think of the big sphere, the emerging one, that is really where you want to explore your interests of emerging things, right? It's not clear that it's a business priority yet. So there we want to connect you into what we think of as one Yale, which is to connect you into the centers of research or other students doing independent studies or other faculty that are doing their own work in this field. But we want to make connections based on what you're interested in and what you want to tackle. I'm always going to put a big caveat on that, which is you are very busy when you get here. There's a lot to do. And there's way too much for you to take on. There's so many opportunities. So you might be interested in everything that's going on like I am, but you have to be a little selective on what you take on at the end of the day. And I'll let our panel talk about that. Okay, so the specific curriculum. kind of the middle of this curriculum is our 6 sustainability classes that occur in your second year of the MBA. We structured this, as you recall, we have a real issue here, which is everybody's coming to sustainability with different skill sets, different expectations, different values, different interests, etc. So we start with actually the class called Sustainability Systems, which is taught by a gentleman named Rodney Irwin from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And that class is level setting. Rodney is there to say, this is what's going on in the space of sustainability. Here's all the acronyms and the organizations and the tools and the frameworks and the processes that are already accepted and are already prevalent within this field. It is a lot of information that Rodney throws in this class because there's a lot that's been going on over the last 30 years. After sustainability systems, we jump into roughly 2 tracks. One is finance and one is corporate. So we have 2 finance classes. We have my class, which is more of a 30,000 foot finance class. And then we have ESG investing, which is very granular. And that's the much more quantitative class. On the corporate side, we've got both the corporate sustainability, which is our managing sustainable operations. And then we have the more impact sustainability corporate side, which is the social entrepreneurship for those who are more interested in kind of social enterprise and how we create better outcomes for people through our business operations. And then finally, to cap this off, although it doesn't necessarily occur at the end, we look at non-market forces because that is a critical component of sustainability. And we look specifically at climate change because that is the largest non-market forces driving businesses today. And to do that, we also bring in non-market actors. So it's taught by one of our law professors, Doug Kaiser, and he looks at policy, legal issues around climate change and how businesses have to navigate in that space today. So that's our curriculum, our six classes. And the way this works, starting with your class, the intern class, is that if you want to focus in sustainability, you'll have to take 2 of these classes, which we identify as core, and then 2 additional classes for a total of 4, at least 4. A lot of people, of course, want to take all 6. So those are our focus areas, our electives. If you go to the next slide, please. Okay. I mentioned the colloquium, more of a consolidating and emerging issues. So we wanted to hear from people that are active in the space, people who are doing stuff. So I really want to invite practitioners who are putting their, putting their hands on the ground and trying to move things forward. So this is just a sample of some speakers that we've had over the last couple of years, a little bit from last year and this year as well. I try to mix local and international speakers. So for example, we've got Oni Obiocha, who is running the Connecticut state level entrepreneurship and accelerator programs for climate and sustainability topics. We also have Ryan Dings, who is the executive director for Climate Haven, which is a climate tech incubator and an accelerator here in New Haven that's just been stood up in the last year. We have some corporate folks. So for example, we have Paulette Frank has come in, Danielle Murfield from GE Renewables has come in to talk about specific ways that we manage sustainability within the corporation. We have lots of service industry type people. So Jamie Hudson just came in a little while ago. And we had an incredibly wonky talk about how to structure finance deals for renewable energy projects. And then we also have, I forgot LaSonia Scott, who's the, essentially she is the ESG controller now for Coca-Cola. Her actual title is Global Vice President of ESG Reporting and Governance, but she sits in the finance space. And then we bring in policy, sometimes military folks as well. So Christopher Coase will be coming later this year, who's the Assistant Secretary for Transportation Policy. Anyone who thinks about sustainability, you know that infrastructure and green infrastructure is one of the critical components that we've got to tackle. So a host of people, we have 8 people come in per year officially, but if you tally up all the other guest speakers that come to Yale on a regular basis, that hopefully you have the time to come and see, that number can go up quite rapidly. Okay, I think I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to bring up our panel. So I'm going to just ask a couple of questions just to kick us off, and we'll see if questions start coming in from the audience. So Erica, let me start with you because you are our current student, a second year. As you said, you're in the weeds right now with the curriculum for sustainability. I want to ask kind of what's been the highlight of your experience in the sustainability curriculum so far?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Todd. Wow, while you were going through the slides, I just realized I'm halfway through ESG investing and I only have one more class left. So, I mean, that's pretty exciting to know that. And I think I was very interested in sustainability, you know, obviously because it's something that's important to me personally, but as well as what's happening in the world. And personally, you know, looking at from my professional standpoint, I work for an elevator company and we exist everywhere in the world. And we're doing things like manufacturing elevators and we're shipping them from place to place. So when I started the program, I thought, how can I think about the construction industry, which I was currently in for the elevator side? How can we incorporate some more sustainable activities, either through our supply chain? And really, I felt like Yale would help me do that. And it was when I you know, joined the first class, which was Rodney's class, which I think was really eye-opening for me because it was so interesting and it just opened up this excitement and curiosity about how can I learn more and how can I do more, to the point where, you know, I even went so far as to go back to our newly established sustainability, our ESG leader, and shared my report on what I thought we needed to change about our ESG report. And happy to say, you know, there were some things that they found because Otis recently went public as an independent company about 3 years ago, and they stood up their first ESG report. And this last one that they did seemed like it made sense, but I felt like there was a lot more that they can communicate internally so that the employees could actually be part of that journey as well. So they're reporting on one side to the investors and at earnings calls and board meetings, but internally it's like getting the culture of the company. So that was pretty well received, and they're going to change how they communicate that this year. But also my current job, you know, I received a promotion to the executive director of modernization. And when you talk about opportunity, the opportunity of taking old equipment that sometimes could be even 100 years old and finding some responsible ways to actually repurpose that, but even bringing in the new products. How do we incorporate sustainable efforts of new products that we're either developing or, you know, thinking about scope 3, all of our partners and our vendors, how do we also hold them to the same accountability that we are internally? So I would say it's been perfect for me so far. I think it's quite, again, exciting. And I, like you said, Todd, I don't think there's so much to learn. I think the biggest challenge has been where do I really want to try to take those learnings and apply them to my day-to-day activity. And for me, it goes hand in hand with my job that I have today. And it's been quite rewarding so far.
That's a good segue. I'll start with Irvi, but I'm going to ask the same question about Irvi and John. Applying it to your day-to-day. Like you spent 2 years here. You learned a little bit of sustainability. You learned a bunch of business. How are you applying it in your day-to-day now? I'll start with Irvi and then I'll ask you, John, as well.
Sure, thank you. I'm a healthcare person, and coming from a clinical background, a lot of my work is traditional care delivery, access to care, population health, that kind of thing. And so in my world and in my ecosystem, sustainability actually does not come up as a frequent talking point. However, individual wellness, how we're going to impact the patient on the ground as we redesign care at the 50,000 foot level is a constant conversation. And so through the program, I learned to combine the words healthcare and sustainability and became empowered with the academic knowledge and also insights from speakers and Todd, our professors, in how to integrate all of these learnings and all the solutions that are applied widely across other industries into healthcare. So when I would go for if we had an M&A transaction or a deal, or if there was a large a population health algorithm that needed to be developed and deployed, I started integrating integrating this into my practice. And I started encouraging my team to take courses at Yale, to start upskilling so that we could integrate sustainability into healthcare. This is reflected in everything we do. We just don't use the word sustainability because so much of what we do in healthcare is just tied to the patient, and that's the jargon that we use. But it's everything that I do. And going forward, I'm working on a venture fund, which hopefully will firmly combine the words healthcare and sustainability, and that will be how we talk about it ongoing.
Excellent. John, same question.
Yeah. So, having been in the South Pacific for a couple decades now, I mean, sustainability is very important to understand in the context of an island resort business operating in a developing country. I mean, you mentioned double materiality before, Todd. I mean, concepts like that and corporate social responsibility really apply, in assessing most material issues from society and the environment that impact the solvency of an island resort like I have. Basically, in Fiji, you really have to look at the business model like an island resort, like what we have, from the outside in and inside out. In Fiji, there's a lot of stakeholders to consider in the tourism industry, business owners, the tourists, of course, the native Fijians, the Fijian government, as well as the surrounding environmental resources. For example, my actions as a business owner greatly impact the native Fijians and villages around me who are dependent on their traditional resources. Some of the sustainability projects that we've embarked on as a result of positively influencing the native Fijians are giant clam projects and marine protected areas around us. And in turn, the local Fijians support our business. I think the Fijian government also really appreciates the relationship we have with the locals, as well as our stewardship of their resources. And really, when you think about sustainability, in our context, it's a joint venture for the long term in this regard, not just with the local ventures or local Fijians, but with the environment. And I think this program at SOM and the sustainability courses has really made me cognizant of this fact.
Because we're talking about what you do, running the resort there and really interacting with, the people and the culture around you. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your independent study that you did while you were here?
Yeah, sure. Well, for one, I took not my whole cohort. I probably took half my cohort to Fiji last January, which was wonderful to kind of introduce them to some of the sustainability practices that we have, both in the village with housing and deploying solar energy, different solutions for, villages off grid, to the solar and clean energy things that we're doing on the island, to some of these projects, like what I mentioned. We have a giant clam restoration project that we do in conjunction with the Ministry of Fisheries. Basically, we take giant clam seedlings on the island and basically grow them to a certain size, several inches, and then place them on our surrounding reef system. And we also bring in rare species from some of the outer islands and place them on the reef as well. Some of those are 400 or 500 pounds. And the reason we're doing this is because endangered clam in Fiji has become really endangered. Unfortunately, a lot of the giant clam species, the larger ones, are sold to offshore Asian markets illegally. And, pretty soon the Fijians aren't going to have one of their major food sources available to them. So getting back to your question, I had my cohort down and introduced them to these projects we're doing, marine protected areas, et cetera. And basically what we're going to do is hopefully put together a case study on some of the work we're doing on Tavara Island Resort and Mocha Island Resort for SOM. So it's a fun project. My independent study was just kind of a pilot for this, and I look forward to working further on it.
And I have I have this. You guys brought me this thermos back.
Yes, we did.
Presumably as a thank you for giving you credit to go to Fiji.
Yeah, we got credit for going on vacation almost.
That was lovely. All right, let me I'll pose this to all three of you. You can just chime in if you have an opinion. without any bias because I'm on the line, but what was your favorite class, or for Erica, favorite class so far, because you still have 1.5 left? And maybe I should say favorite and or most useful.
All right, I'll start. I think the sustainability systems was the most important to me because I didn't know, and it was like a fire hydrant of information coming from Rodney, and I didn't really understand when, you know, we would get presentations with 100+ slides on it, and you know, there was some method to, I'm not going to say it was madness, but it was a method to it, right? Because he said, you're not going to be able to grasp all of this. But it really kind of set me up to understand a couple key important things. You know, when my company and people in the world are talking about, you know, SDG and the UN, the Sustainability Development Goals, now I know what they are, right? And now I'm thinking, like, how can I be more impactful of that? And understanding the different reporting agencies and having more depth about how can we have frameworks that set up, you know, the internal decisions that you make, and how does that reflect with what you're doing externally. So that to me was kind of like the icebreaker for me to really start to leverage more of the learnings from the rest of the curriculum. So it happened to be in sync with that being one of the first classes that we started in year 2.
John or Irvi, do you have an opinion or reflection on any of the classes?
I'll let Irvi jump in.
Oh, thank you. Well, so actually completely unbiased and not influenced by Todd's presence on this webinar, but actually both of his classes have always been my favorite. And it's been 6 years since I graduated, I think. So I don't remember the exact name of the class, but the quantitative one, which was on metrics and KPIs, I found that incredibly useful. I ended up working, I mean, I dived into the material and imagined how I would construct contracts in healthcare and how I would construct certain KPIs to better holistically capture value, yet still appear to be care driven and patient focused. I mean, of course, sustainability is patient focused, but I knew that I couldn't, quote unquote, sell the idea if I had termed it the way perhaps an oil and gas person would construct their contracts. So I found that class incredibly useful. And then second, stakeholder management. Again, I forgetting the name of the class, but a lot of my day-to-day involves relationship management, especially if I'm working on a large deal, and you know, consumer sentiment, investor sentiment becomes incredibly important. And Todd's class, from a soft power lens, really helped me evaluate various stakeholders, how they would respond to who would respond better to sustainability messaging, who might better respond to other messaging. And so both of those have been my favorites.
Thank you. John, how about you?
Oh, she took a line out of my playbook, but I'll throw it in anyway. Todd, I really enjoyed taking your class too, sustainability finance. It just gave me tools and things to really better analyze different aspects of my business that I never really thought of doing before. I also really enjoyed sustainability systems. You mentioned that earlier, taught by Rodney Irwin. He's excellent. He really goes into effects of climate change and other different issues that are really, you know, affecting the world and businesses and people today. I mean, I think a big theme in all the courses is really the health of your business depends on the health of society and the environment, and vice versa. I mean, also, I really enjoyed all the courses. Climate policy that Kaiser taught was really good too. You know, it's one of the top law school professors at Yale. You have the opportunity to interact with them and take his course. That was incredible. I mean, really, they're all amazing and really applicable to my line of work in the PG Islands.
All right, so one last question for all of you, and then we'll see what kind of questions we have from the audience. And that is, a word of advice. So everyone here is presumably considering coming to the executive MBA, and possibly the sustainability focus area. What would your bit of advice to them be? You're in it, you've been through it, or is a long time ago in Irvy's case?
I'll jump in. My advice would be jump at the opportunity. I mean, I can honestly say, and this isn't a plug, the MBA program was literally one of the best things I've ever done in my life, both for my business and myself personally. I mean, I met lifelong friends in my cohort, and connected with amazing professors as well as other academics that are literally at the top of their field. I mean, honestly, the connections and opportunities you'll have from this program are endless. And obviously, the sustainability focus was super relevant to my profession. You know, the tools and knowledge I acquired in this area have already had a huge impact on my business, and I'm hoping to continue to have a super positive influence on sustainability practices and policies throughout the country of Fiji and the South Pacific. So I'll reiterate, it was one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I totally agree with John. I stole my words. Best decision I ever made outside of my husband and 2 kids. And it's amazing. Uh, and I will say, again, exactly to John's point, the connections, the friendships, and the knowledge is durable. And I find it almost more relevant now than when I was going through the program. And I continue to partner with professors and friends and other leaders at Yale, depending on where I am professionally and what I'm working on. And I just place such a huge value on my relationship with the program and everyone in it. So highly encourage everyone to do it.
All right, Erica.
Okay, so no, I'm obviously in agreement with what Irvi and John said, but I think that, you know, it's going to be such a impactful, it's going to really make such a huge impact on you, right? I mean, I've been out of school. So for me personally, I've been out of school for maybe over 20 years. So don't let that discourage you. I think that, you know, I'm living proof that I could get through it. And so are my colleagues on the phone. I think it's rewarding for you personally. I think it's rewarding for you professionally. It definitely coincides when they say leaders in business and society, you feel that and you understand that. The people that you will meet in the networks are tremendous, not only in your cohort, but, you know, John, I mean, he's obviously someone that you're going to continue to connect with, and Irvi. These are just some of the people that you'll meet during your journey, and the impact that it's going to have on your day-to-day operations, right? Especially if a lot of people in my program are maybe thinking of pivoting, and you heard Irvi's story that she started doing something else when she started the program, and now she's done wonderful things since then. So I would say, don't hesitate and actually take the opportunity to ask as many questions, because we were all probably in a similar situation as you are today. And sustainability, I feel like it's the single most important thing that we should all be focusing on. And I would highly recommend that to be your focus area, just because it touches the financial sector, it touches the healthcare sector, and it touches, you know, every single human being. And climate change is something that we all need to focus on together.
All right. Thank you all so much. There's a few questions in the Q&A. There's one question around tuition in the chat, and then there's a hand raise. So let me start with some of the Q&A questions. Tackle, I think, well, let's see if we can do them all. I'm going to start with this one from Tony, and I think this is for you 3 to answer. I think you can do it better than I can. Maybe show that we taught you something. How does sustainability curriculum at SOM incorporate interdisciplinary approaches, combining elements from fields like economics, healthcare, social justice, and how does it prepare students for leadership?
Okay, maybe. Oh, wow. Irvi, me or you?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So let me try to just make sure that I can answer it the best. I think the curriculum crosses. I think if you think about just some of the things that that are happening in the world today, right? So from a social perspective, social governance or social, ways, I think taking what's happening in the world today, and if you just simply reflect back into what the UN is doing, UN has signatories across the entire world, right? And what they're trying to do with those sustainable development goals is do things like focus on social governance, is focus on, having clean energy and having clean water, thinking about, maybe places where John is working right now, how some of these areas are at high risk and very vulnerable in terms of having impacts of climate change. So I think anything that you're going to read in the newspaper today has an association with climate change. If you think about the economy, I mean, I don't know what you want to call COVID, but COVID was a big epidemic, a pandemic for the entire world. And that definitely had an impact on the economy worldwide, right? So anything, we are at a stage right now, and we've learned that in Rodney's class, is that we've been at a point right now, and it's been coming up to 30 years, and we have some critical milestones that we have to meet. And there's some objectives that we as a global organization need to make happen by 2030. So I think that's where, where all of the interdisciplinary paths will cross. And then I think how I think there was a question about leadership there. I think you just pick something that's important, that you're passionate about, that you can lead. I mean, it's a huge elephant, but take a piece that you think you can really help drive and support, and just try to make that change. It could be one person, and that one person can influence the next person, right? And find a platform in which you feel like you can be heard and actions can be taken.
Do you want to add anything, Uri, or?
Yeah, that was beautiful, Eric. I think you described so much. I will add, I think it taught me to make a business case for all of the business ethics and social justice narratives that we all discussed. And Todd is really great at that. So for example, like even in Todd's recent masterclass in DC, we're always distilling current narrative, current affairs into our cases and in our homework and everything else. But making a business case for the change you want to see and how you want to design the future is, I think, what this entire program really excels at.
And I'll just add on to what Irvi said, and Erica, you definitely hone your leadership skills in this program. You like, if you have a drive to be a leader, to make some kind of impact, in your industry or on the world or anything, this program gives you the tools to do it. It really, really does. The opportunities are just endless. So it's definitely useful to take advantage of as much as you can in it to do this.
And I'll just add that the leadership question or skills, that goes way beyond sustainability, right? That starts more or less day one, from the nuts and bolts, like negotiations, to the executive, which kind of looks across categories. I think this question is for Irvi.
Can we go to the raised hand?
Yes.
I see Thomas has his hand raised bravely. So
Sure.
I think that would be the next person. Let's reward the bravery of Thomas. Thomas, that is.
All right, I'm going to stay off camera because I'm sick in bed right now. But
okay.
Hi everyone, TJ Modzelewski. I guess this is a question for all the panelists, but maybe Irvi in particular. So I have a background in healthcare and finance, but sustainability is something that I've been very passionate about as well. I guess this is maybe a hypothetical to pose, but I know when you all are going through or have gone through the program, you were required to declare a track, and sounds like you guys obviously all went to the sustainability track. But if you were entering the program today or in the future where you could be a generalist, would you have done that? Because again, Irvi, I know you have kind of touched in all three areas, or would you have still stuck with the sustainability track? So just curious, now that there's that flexibility in the program, what if you would have done anything differently or not? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. I will say that I think I was younger and not as wise, and thankfully so, when I started the program. I actually got admission into the healthcare track, and I went to a master class by the previous faculty director, Paul Anastas, at the time, and he described the sustainability track as an innovation track, or at least that's how I experienced it. And so I thought, wow, I'm really looking to get out of my echo chamber. I'm sure I could meet more healthcare people and do more healthcare things forever. By that time, I had a doctorate. I did academic research and I'd done treatment. I'd done so much already in healthcare that it would have been very easy to continue to do the same. So I was really motivated by the opportunity to innovate and expand and learn. And so I ended up switching tracks. It's, as I mentioned, the best thing I ever did. I think now, I probably overthink things, and I think, oh, is it worth the investment? And how do you know that that investment is going to, in your education, is going to lead to certain outcomes? And what are the tangible professional deliverables that will be created off of it? It's so easy to overthink these things, which is why I said I'm thankful that I wasn't that wise, or I wasn't thinking about it that much 8 years ago. So yeah, it's been a really valuable experience. And no, knowing what I know now and how my career has developed, I would absolutely not change a thing. I wouldn't go to a generalist track, and I speak only for myself. You guys should definitely, take the right decisions for yourself. But for me, it's been hugely valuable to have this additional sustainability layer. I have advocated and written and done deals and working on a fund. I just think that even if all of this would have been possible without a specific sustainability MBA, I don't think I would have been as prepared or knowledgeable to do it. So I wouldn't change it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think there's another one for you, Irvi, because it's also about healthcare.
Irvi's popular.
Irvi, yeah, there's a healthcare bent going on here. This one is, and I'm going to rephrase it a little bit, and ask it in two ways. So the question is how to apply sustainability towards single-use medical devices. But I want to flip it to how much did you touch on kind of healthcare in the sustainability curriculum, versus if we didn't, how did you bring that in yourself through other opportunities?
Yeah. So yes, agreed. So single-use medical devices can be compared to single-use anything. Think about it like diapers, or anything else. It's just a one-time thing. So much of it is poorly constructed or cannot. I won't get into it, but so the program itself did not touch upon it, but my capstone study towards the end was my book. And I combined the quantitative learning from my two favorite classes with what I was exploring in circular economies in medical devices. And it was hugely helpful in articulating a business case for circular economies. So I've also published with the School of Medicine and School of Public Health on this. So there are various tangents that my career took because of the program, even though the program itself did not touch on this subject. It'll help you. It'll help you do transactions or engagements such that you can articulate a business case. There's a lot of work in this space, like Philips and Stryker and AMDR, Association of Medical Device Reprocessors, do a lot of work in circular economies and single-use devices. So, and that's just to name a few. So there's a lot of momentum in this space, and I think the program will prepare you for it, but not necessarily touch upon it.
I'll just add, and Erica and John, if you want to add as well, I'll just add that there's a million issues in sustainability, right? There's everyone, like I said, everyone brings their own passion, their own interests, their own thing that they want to focus on. So the curriculum really does not focus on particular topic areas. We cover lots of topic areas as part of applying a process, whether that's a materiality process or a financial analysis or stakeholder engagement. We use examples of topics to look at how the processes work or look at the organizations and tools that are there. But there's no one topic that you would say, this, I don't think, that you guys can disagree with me, where I would say, this is what, what you're going to come out and you're going to know exactly how to, preserve biodiverse areas in the global south, for example. Okay, we have another hand up, Emily, I guess.
Yeah.
So Alberto, do you have a question?
Hi, yes. Good to see everybody, and thank you all for being on here. It's been really eye-opening and what I was hoping for out of it, because I know that sustainability is so broad and everything that's on there. But I was curious, and because I know y'all mentioned the sustainability systems class quite often, and kind of how there's a lot of stuff that's there. And for me, I'm in real estate, and so I've been doing commercial real estate now for 20 years, and I am finishing up my master's in real estate at Georgetown, and my thesis is on mass timber and affordable housing. And so what I was curious about is, because obviously, Todd, I can see a number of your classes, especially, the finance side of it was something I'm very interested in, figuring out these KPIs that could work for developers and other real, but I'm not sure where these classes are coming from, because I also like the ability of seeing maybe what the Yale School of Environment has to offer as well. And so are some of those classes that you mentioned there from Yale School of Environment, or can we intermix and still kind of get that specialization, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand or figure out.
Yeah. So real quickly, and then I'm going to hand it back to the panel. When I construct the sustainability curriculum here at SOM, I try to bring in professors from different areas of the school. So we have the sustainable operations this year will be taught by 2 school of the environment professors. Policy class is taught by a law professor. The both finance classes are taught by SOM professors. So we have a little bit of a variety there, but they are coming to you to teach here at SOM. But I'm going to ask the panel, if people coming in want to access other classes, other centers, other stuff going on at Yale, what's out, not so much out there. How did you do it? And what are what are the goods and the bads, given that's, that's not a full-time program?
I'll jump in really quick and then hand it to the other two. Basically, the sky's the limit. I mean, as an SOM student in the MBA program, you can access courses from all the different schools. It's just a matter of how much time there is in a day, in a week. You could literally take law school classes. To your point, Alberta, you could take classes from the School of the Environment. You can completely pack your schedule with lots and lots of electives. And that's one of the most amazing things about this program. But it's just a matter of time, which is the hardest thing for me to get my arms around when I was there. Is you just don't have time to do everything, and especially if you're commuting, from a faraway place like Fiji or California. But anyway, I'll hand it to the other panelists to see if they have some views on this.
No, totally agree. I think the sky is the limit. And I guess if you don't have the bandwidth to be able to do those special classes, they have, after class every Saturday, they have guest speakers, right, that come and talk about a specific area. So there's an opportunity maybe to get some information in small chunks. And then there's always the opportunity to engage further with these presenters. You have the colloquium. So let's say you decide to do the EMBA program. Todd talked about the colloquium. We had some class acts of speakers there, right? So there's always the connection to make with some of the people that are at the colloquium. And then I know that John had mentioned he was part of CBAY, right? So how do you take some of what you're trying to do and learn more about and maybe start up programs or set up some projects? So I think there's an endless amount of resources, but there's just maybe not enough time in the day. So I think you can make the best decision on how you prioritize that. But I think that the opportunities are, you know, endless.
Sorry, go ahead, Irving.
I agree.
Oh, you-
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a one Yale concept which John and Eric have described really well, and you should absolutely take advantage of that. But there's also, I remember on my first day in orientation, there was a slide that David Bach had put up on the screen, and it said, "Your Yale is yours, Yale is yours, and you are Yale's forever," or something like that. And I think I will say that's true. So even if you can't do everything on your wish list in 2 years, you have, as an alumni, you can still be involved and do so much by way of your network and coming on campus or even remotely, that I don't see it as a barrier.
I'll just finish this thought with some electives and opportunities are handed to you on a silver platter by the staff, right, by the administration. But the rest of the school is going Monday through Thursday all day. So if you want to take a class that meets Monday and Wednesday morning, you got to be here Monday and Wednesday morning to take the class. So that's usually the barrier, as they've described.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Great. All right.
Oh,
Cool.
well, yeah, sorry. Back to you, Emily. Thank you.
Yeah, so just wrapping this up with a bow here. Thank you all so much for joining us. Todd, Irvi, John, Erica, really appreciate your time today and sharing your insights on both the curriculum and your experiences within it and beyond it. It's been a real pleasure. I'm so glad that we had this session. We will record this. If you've got other questions, the last line item there, reach out to emba.admissions@yale.edu. Also, if you haven't already done so, complete a pre-assessment. Send in a little information about yourself, LinkedIn profile or resume, and a member of my team will be happy to get back in touch with you, and we can kind of keep the conversation going, share about other opportunities to connect with us. Today, you're attending a virtual session, which is great. We will have more upcoming, some virtual chats, some virtual individual admissions consultations, starting back in January after a well-deserved holiday recess. We will be coming back in January to having on-campus events and opportunities to engage, meet some current students such as Erica and her cohort mates. If you decide to join us in January, we have lunch with current students and an opportunity to sit in on a great class so that you can kind of see for yourself. Application deadline is closed for round 1, but you can certainly look toward our late January round 2 deadline if that's of interest to you. And yes, thank you all so much for taking time out of what I'm sure are very busy days and lives and schedules to be here with us. I hope you've taken a lot away from this and that you've learned a great deal. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.